Today, to do our Pledge of Allegiance, we have Jackson Smucker from King Elementary School. He is a 5th grade honor roll student at King Elementary. In addition to his classwork, Jackson is a lunchtime monitor, assisting younger students while they eat and play at recess. He's also a study buddy, which means he is paired with a kindergarten student to complete science lessons each month. Jackson had a study buddy when he was a kindergarten student, and now he has become the teacher. That's awesome. Outside of school, Jackson plays soccer and tennis. King School is very proud to have Jackson represent them and lead the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Come on up, Jackson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There he is. Just when I think he's not here, he comes. I told you he would come. Sneak it through. All right, Jackson, why don't you tell us who you brought with you today, or who's here to support you?
My mom, Katie, is here to support me, and my principal, Miss Steve James.
Very good. Thank you for playing.
Now, he has something else he has to share with
Oh, what else do you want to
that's
share with us?
about his lineage, heritage.
Oh,
Orville.
my last name is Smuckers, and I'm related to the jelly company.
And Jack, I was going to ask him, could he bring a couple of jars of Smuckers here? I don't know if that would be allowed.
Well, Jackson has soccer tonight, so we're going to let him scoot out of here so that he does not have, he promised that he would perhaps look up a board line, but I told him he did not have to stay. On TV later? Yes. So good luck, and hopefully it won't rain. We're not making any promises. All right. Thank you. Have a good week. Okay. All right, now is our time for community and school reflections. Would anyone like to go first? All right, please.
A number of us attended the Teacher of the Year banquet, which was a very good banquet, always a good turnout, and we want to again thank all the teachers for doing a good job this year, working hard with our students, working hard with the parents and the community, superintendent and his staff as well, and us. So we want to thank the teachers for doing that. And our Teacher of the Year from Ellet High School was, somebody help me.
Ron
Beaudry. We want to congratulate him on being Teacher of the Year. He's very, very humble, nice gentleman, seemed to be very caring for his students. So we want to thank him congratulate him for being Teacher of the Year. And we also attended, some of us, which is Akron NAPSI program last week as well, to give awards and certificates to the kids who have good grades, who good attendance, are doing a lot of good deeds throughout the school year. And that was very exciting too, to see, especially the younger kids come across the stage and be happy to receive an award. So that's always nice. Those are the only two I had.
I'll go second.
Sure.
The one thing I wanted to echo that Bruce talked about, and that was the Teacher of the Year banquet. And I was just amazed looking over, and we did kind of broke up presentations, and Veronica and I had an opportunity to go over the publications and presentations that some of the teachers did, and it was just very impressive how the wide variety of subjects they covered, and it's truly teachers helping teachers, and with the changing curriculum upgrades that we have across the education front, I think that it just shows that we're really striving hard, and our teachers are doing a very great job. And in addition to Mr. Boldry, there were some, call them semi-finalist teachers that were up there, and all of them just stellar teachers, the cream of the cream, and I just now appreciate much better how great the teaching staff is that we have in Akron Public Schools, and I just want to give a shout out to the teachers as well as all those involved in that evening. It was really a pretty fun evening for everybody. Thank you.
Carla always does a bang-up job with that. She's not here tonight, but it's always runs smoothly. It always is on time. She's always well prepared, and I agree. It's always a fantastic event. Your eyes are teaching me.
No. Well, I guess I echo the sentiments of everybody here who attended the program. I was really, I know everybody wants to talk about the video. I don't remember who the guy was. I don't remember his name. Help me.
Ryan.
He did a phenomenal job with the video. It was hilarious. I'm hoping that we'll all get a copy, but if not, at least get an opportunity to see it again. And again, it was well attended, and it does speak to how far-reaching our teachers' grasp is across the state, and we're so blessed to have them. Also attended a peace march along with Mr. Miller and the superintendent Carla on the 17th Saturday. It's the second annual peace march, committee to reduce violence in Akron. Not a huge crowd, but I think the work they're doing is huge. And so I'm looking, talking with Tim, come up with some really good ideas about how we continue to help get that message out. So I'm looking forward to being able to help with that. I had the privilege to go to Washington, D.C. with the 8th graders from Nifstem Middle School. My daughter Kyra is an 8th grader there. And it was amazing. I mean, the kids were wonderful. The teachers just top grade. It was amazing to hear them converse about so much of what they already knew about the Smithsonian's and just the conversation. They were super, super, super well behaved. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that. I also attended the Akron Advocates for STEM Learning first fundraiser. Began raising scholarship funds for those students, not only who are be the first class coming out of the STEM high school, but across the district who have students who have interest in the STEM area. It was very nice. I had a few drawings. I'm still shaken by the fact I didn't win anything, although I did spend some money, but I'm sure it'll all work out in the wash.
A couple things. I want to talk about the Peace Walk as well, or Peace March. They have videos on the scoreboard at the Canal Park or Rubber Ducks Park, I think, whatever it's called now, but for the students and for the parents, because I learned something, and I think it's worth sharing. They were talking about, kids don't want to talk about what other kids do because they're going to be called a snitch. Well, they were telling the kids that a snitch is not somebody. A snitch is somebody who tells on somebody else to save themselves from getting in trouble doing something negative as well. You're only being a good citizen when you're telling an adult or another kid or something about something negative that's happening and should be taken care of by an adult. So, a snitch is a bad word, but a snitch is somebody that's trying to save their rear end too. So you're a good citizen if you're telling an adult of something negative that's happening that should be taken care of. And that's part of the message that Peace Walk's trying to get out to the kids, and that's what we're trying to get more kids to see that message. It'd be great. A couple other things I did, not to go over everything here. Participated in After Prom at Firestone High School over the weekend, and I know Firestone's not the only one that does After Prom, and I to every high school and every parent that puts on an After Prom for kids, you have to thank those people for doing that. It's a positive program that keeps kids off the street after prom. They get locked in from midnight to 4 a.m. So, and put on all kinds of different things for the kids to do, but at least at Firestone High School, the kids seem to enjoy it because it's typically a sellout every year. And like I said, I know it happens at other high schools. And thank you to everybody who does those at any high school, anywhere. Let's see. I'll close with a couple things at the Business Advisory Council meeting this morning. A couple things I learned as well. I think Deborah Folk was talking about both of these, but I guess Akron Public Schools is going to have beach bags this summer for the students, similar to what our Blizzard bags were. It's going to be voluntary, but I think it sounds like a great program for kids to get some reading material home, and hopefully parents will challenge their kids to keep up over the summertime. And we were also talking about safety of kids going to and from school, and I learned what a road diet was, and I guess Copley Road went on a road diet this year in front of Bookville High School, where they narrowed the lanes and changed the traffic pattern to make it safer for the kids to there walk to and from schools. And I guess part of the transportation committee for the Business Advisory Council is looking at other areas where hopefully they can work with the city or the county or whoever has the specific roads and try to calm traffic in front of the schools for the safety of the students as well. So some good things coming out of the Business Advisory Council.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to mention too, during the presentations for the Teacher of the Year, there were two students who wrote letters about why they found their teachers to be special. One of the young persons, Kwame, can't say his last name. Yeah, there's a recent article about him, just a phenomenal student. All the students were, but when you see students like that really rise above the tide, really rise significantly above the tide, it's always a blessing to see, and just his commitment to his fellow students, that whole class at Akron College. But I just looked at him and many of the students that presented to do just really, really great things. So I just want to make sure I said that.
I just wanted to highlight with the NAPSE to see the young people who have perfect attendance, that still enjoy attending school, take pride in attending school, and those students who had exemplary character, who were really outstanding in how they treat the other students and how they treat their teachers and staff. And to see them as they came across the stage, very happy, very appreciative. And then the staff, the teachers that were involved, the counselors that were involved, in making sure that would happen. And these are students who may not get any congratulations otherwise. So it's nice to take a moment to honor and appreciate those students and what NAPSE does all year long. So we appreciate their work.
Especially at perfect attendance this year.
Right.
4 years. All of our weather. All right, we do have several requests to address the board. I'm going to
Did we talk to the folks to see if they needed to go into exec? Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Tarl if he'd like to go first.
Sure.
Just because we may have need to go into executive session for some of the others. So if you want to come up and go first, Jack's going to time you. Come on up. Take your place over there.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Pearson's going to time you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, let me,
We don't usually answer you back, and we'll talk more about that after you're done. Like you
No
said,
problem.
I'll give you a 1-minute warning when we get.
I appreciate our representative sends his regards. He got held up in a committee meeting in Columbus. Really wanted to be here. This is important to him, but we got a job to do. So you get the B team. Sorry. And if we're going to be strict on the 3 minutes, I'll go really fast, and I hope you can take it in.
To cover tonight, so yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, I'll be brief. Thank you. As you know, the achievement gap in America is a big deal. The disparity between our poor students and our middle class students is huge. The federal government tells us that by 12th grade, our the average inner city kid will read on the 8th grade level. This has massive ramifications both for the child and for society as a whole. Our governor has recognized this and is trying to stop it. We appreciate your help as well. You already know that. What you may not know is that 65 to 80% of this achievement gap is due primarily to summer learning loss. It's not what's happening in your schools during the school year, it's what's not happening during the summer. All kinds of studies have confirmed this, okay? What is happening is our inner city kids, on average, in Akron this year, will lose 3 months of reading comprehension. They will literally go backwards 3 months. Meanwhile, their suburban peers and their middle class peers will not have the same effect. They will gain as much as a month. That is a 4-month difference. That one is compounded year after year. By 4th grade, leaves the average inner city kid reading on the 2nd grade level. Now, that's not acceptable, obviously, to you or anybody sitting in this room. There's good news, though, and the good news is that this summer reading loss can be stopped, and it's fairly simple. It's a simple matter of getting kids to read just six self-selected books of their choosing on their grade level. If they'll do that over the summer, then that summer learning loss is thwarted. And as many of your comments, we know we got to get our parents involved. We've got to educate them. If our parents know this, they're going to get busy with this. I believe that. There's a guy in Philadelphia that started a program several years back that does just that. It reaches out to parents first. It brings them in to a 3-legged educational chair as opposed to the 2-legged, which is failing today. So what this guy has done is, with a 5-week program and parental involvement, is making 3-month gains during the course of the summer as opposed to losing 3 months. Thank you. That's a 6-month difference when that is compiled over 4 years. Not only does that lead to reading proficiency in 4th grade, but it obliterates the achievement gap altogether. If it sounds too good to be true, it's not. This program is in its 3rd year. It has been tested over 1,000 students, and this year in Philadelphia Public, they will partner with this program to do 2,000 new students. What do we want to do? We want to bring that same program to Akron. We've been in contact with Mr. Ortigas. Zach and I are going to fund the program. We want that for Akron. We are here today to ask for your help. I have put together a wish list of things that we would like your help with. Things like old textbooks. Things like allow us to put our flyers into your schools to let your parents know. Things like a recommended list of at-risk 2nd graders. We're not asking for a lot, but we'd appreciate any help that you can have to give us, because we are going to begin to end this problem. Thank you. I will pass these around for you. There's flyers and also our wish list. Thank you. Mr. James. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Sorry, I had to talk so fast. I got an 8-minute version too.
All right. Next, we're going to ask Ms. Jeffries to come forward. Now, the question I have for you is, if you would like to, we can go into executive session, especially if you're going to mention anyone's name, and maybe including your own. Okay, all right.
Good afternoon. The purpose for me being here today is the OGT testing, and the seniors who do not get to walk across the stage the day that their peers are going to be able to walk in June. I just feel that it's like, I've waited 13 years for my daughter to do this, to walk across the stage, and because she is an honor roll student, she got an honor achievements, the only senior, and she did fail her science and her OGT, but I just feel that it's really wrong that she cannot, and other students from other high schools cannot walk with their peers across the stage. We do know that they have to go to summer school, and my daughter has no problem with that, but the only thing is, my daughter's getting ready to go to college also, and she's not going to be able to come back here to go and walk across the stage in September with the rest of the kids. And they were going to call their names anyway, because when they had back learn, they made them put on their cap and gown. They made them walk across the stage when they, had to walk across the stage. And I just feel that, and I think that, not just for my child, but for the ones that are coming up, that the testing is, what does it mean and what is it doing for our kids? If it's something that our kids really need to know, how come it's not in the curriculum in school? Why do they take it in these months and only get a day or whatever? Now, I don't know how long it is that they get to prepare for this, but I feel that the teachers here in the Akron Public Schools should teach them more about the OGT than just telling them to go home, look on the computer, and here goes the test and do it.
The superintendent will be back in touch with you. Thanks very much. And we have Ms. Culver.
Can I do the recessive?
Sure, we can do that. That's the last one. No, we dropped one of them, right?
Mr. Thomas and Milkovich was coming.
Right, and the other one is not. Right, and this one I dropped.
There was a new one this morning. So I've never had to do this. All right, executive session for others. Okay. I need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of other.
So moved.
Move.
Second.
Move to properly seconded. Roll call, please.
Joe Alexander.
Yes.
Bravo.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Lombardi.
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Can I actually ask a question? Would we do this with another? I've never,
Well, we have her on the agenda early, so we're going to go ahead and we'll just do exec twice
Yes.
rather than make her wait.
okay, yes.
Mrs. Sims.
Yes.
Reverend Walker.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to clear for just a couple of minutes. It'll be really fast. I promise we'll get you all back in here in just a minute or two. Actually, 3 minutes, right? Welcome back to our general session. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Our next order of business is Mr. Black is going to give a presentation about graduation. Have your name tag.
All right. Thank you for waiting patiently. We have an obligation here in Akron Public Schools, and that obligation is to ensure that all students are on the pathway to graduate and also is work and career ready. And what that means is that we have students that come to us at all different levels. But being a public school, we have committed to ensuring no matter what level they come to us on, we get them to that ultimate goal of graduation. Our students come to us with many aspirations, many different career focus areas, and we have designed career education programs as well as curriculum to support their aspirations, their dreams, and their goals. We have students that have inquired, how do I create a job that may not exist right now? Because we have to keep that in mind. We're also preparing students for jobs that may not exist at this point in time. But at the end of the day, it's about all students joining together, banding together in a partnership with the school district, teachers, parents, community members, businesses, to ensure that work and career ready is the goal. Graduation is the transition to those aspirations. And here in Akron Public Schools, we have designed a road to graduation and beyond to ensure that our students have that pathway. That road starts in the freshman year when they enter high school. We have course requirements that are not only designed to help support with the OGT passage, but also for the ACT entrance exam passage. Our courses are English 9, Algebra, Physics, Science, Physical Science, World History, and 2 electives. These are the things that are required for a student to be considered not only on track to graduate, but on track to pass the OGT, on track to prepare themselves for the ACT entrance exam, as well as work skills. We have graduation and college practice assessments to help gauge where our students are so that we can close the gaps because, again, they come to us on different levels. We have the Explore ACT Prep, which allows for us to see what students are on track to pass the ACT. We have our MAP test, which is given 3 times a year to determine if students are gathering course requirements, if they're growing, if they're not growing, what interventions need to take place. Along with the DAP test, which is our semester exams that help us determine if our curriculum is correctly aligned to where the students need to be at the end of the year. And then we have practice OGT tests that we give to students in the freshman year, as well as in their sophomore year at the beginning of the school year. In the sophomore year, our core requirements allow for us to determine if our students are on the right path to a career education, a college education, or just being work ready. We have students in the 10th grade year that starts to explore career education through electives. We also still have our basic curriculum, which is our English 10, geometry, BioChem, and U.S. history, which also supports the students in taking the OGT and the ACT. These results are measured through the tests that we put in place to determine along the way if our students are growing, are we closing the achievement gap, and if not, what other interventions can be put in place. We have the plan, which is an ACT test that builds off of the freshman test. We have the MAP and DAP still in place to measure the core curriculum. And we have the OGT that takes place along with the PSAT. Some folks will joke and tell you, we test our students to death. And if you were at the Teacher of the Year banquet, you heard about the acronym anxiety. Well, you see a lot of acronyms here. Okay? But they all help us to determine before the students get to the junior year, what course of actions do we need to take? What adjustments do we need to take along the way for our students? Because when we get to the junior year, we are now talking about courses that colleges and universities look at as determining college and career readiness. English 2 and Algebra 2 are 2 courses to help determine if a student is going on to college to be remedial. What remedial means is they are not on track to be career ready in the areas of English 2 and Algebra 2. And when you look at the ACT, the benchmarks for those scores is an 18 for the English, and for math it's a 21. And if the students are on track, then they're deemed college ready. If they're not on track, they look at those students being placed in remedial courses upon arrival to college. But what we do is we try to create a triage that'll help those students get on track. Also, it allows us to see what students, if any, that have not passed the OGT by this point in their high school roadway, all right, to determine what other achievement tests as well as intervention tests that we can give to them. Okay, and here's the assessments that we give. We give the DAP, OGT if needed. ACT prep continues. Because in the 10th grade year, in the 11th grade year, every student in the Akron Public Schools take the ACT. For the ACT prep, we use a software called Zapit. We also give the compass so the students can start exploring the opportunities of taking dual credits. We have the ACT, the SAT, and then the ASVAB for students that are looking to go to the military. In the senior year, At this point, we are transitioning the students to be work ready and career ready. And the English 12, government and economics, advanced math, career education. All right, in the junior year, a lot of our students jump into their career programs. Okay, and they'll be in those career programs for 2 years. They can also earn dual credit in those career programs. And when they move into their senior year, they complete the program with success. They can earn credentials if they pass the test to go with the career ed program. So in our senior year, we look for post-secondary options for students as well as dual credit options for our students. So what does beyond mean? It means that we have students that will be ready to go into the military to exercise their opportunity to not only service the country, but also explore career options. We have students that go on, to fulfill their dreams of being scientists, biochemists. We have students that take advantage of the credentials or licensures through our career education programs, such as cosmetology. Okay? We also have students that take other avenues as they take steps to be veterinarians and things of that nature. So when we look at our students going beyond, we look at all their dreams, their career surveys, and their aspirations. But what this leads us to is making sure and ensuring that we're looking at data in real time so that we know what gaps exist for our students. And we're going to, in the next slide, we're going to show you some of this data, what our seniors look like right now, okay, as we prepare to graduate. And this data is still in draft form because we have students that are closing up with grades, and it does impact if they're on a alternative pathway. And let me explain to you what the alternative pathway. If a student has one test left to pass in their senior year of the OGT, and they score at least a 390 or higher, and they have a 2.5 within that core area. So if I didn't pass science, it's the last course for me to pass, and I have a 2.5 in the area of science, and my attendance is at a 97%, I can go in the alternative pathway, and the state will grant me graduate as a graduate. Okay? And we know that to be a graduate in Akron Public Schools and many of the schools around us, you have to pass all 5 parts of the OGT, and you have to have at least 21 credits in the areas that I showed you with the core requirements. So it can't be just 21 credits of electives. It has to be within English, math, science, social studies, and then the electives to go with that. Okay? I'm going to have Yvonne Culver come up, who works with not only me in the secondary ed department, but also with all of our counselors to ensure that communications, all right, and data is passed down to not only the students, but also the parents in a timely basis throughout the school year.
I just wanted to add that alternative pathway that Mr. Black was discussing was designed to keep one particular measure from penalizing your child. They don't want just all the eggs to be in one basket. If I have shown that I am competent in science through my GPA, if I have shown that my attendance is good and I've done everything that I should do as far as try to pass that test, if I am within that 390 to 400, that 10-point range for only one test, that gives me an avenue outside of just this one road marker to continue on. And right now, the counselors are in the process of checking. Some of them, they have to wait for that final science grade or that final math grade to see if the student is within that GPA. But they are looking to see if we can have some more students cross as a result of that alternative pathway. For OGT preparation, what we're looking at is, first of all, quality classroom instruction. Nothing can replace quality classroom instruction. You can't just study one night for an OGT test. The OGT test is a result of years of preparation. Quality classroom instruction, we're working very much within Akron Public Schools to make sure that happens with the teacher-based teams and the professional learning communities to make sure that quality instruction is in every classroom every day. Another thing we're doing is early identification of at-risk students. What we are looking at is maybe students who have not passed the OAA in middle school that shows that they aren't on level as they enter high school, or maybe students who have had attendance issues, etc. And we are looking at those students and taking some prevention measures as opposed to waiting until the student does not pass whatever standardized assessment it is. Response to intervention, to close gaps, we're looking to see, is what we are doing working? And if it's not working, what else should we do? We have before school, after school, weekend intervention programs that students can take advantage of. Some schools are taking the early identification of the at-risk students, and they're pairing those students one-on-one with upperclassmen mentors or with faculty mentors and tutors to work with them early on. And then we have supplemental supports. There are computer programs that students can access at home or at school. And then regular parental contact. At the end of every year, if a student is not on level, actually at the end of every semester, if a student is not on level or if a student has failed a core course, something is being sent home. Normally it's in with a report card that says, you know, your student may need to go to summer school, your student may need to go to night school, etc. But at the end of every semester, as a minimum, some kind of parent communication should be coming home. This chart shows, as of now, the number of students that need to pass one or more OGT tests. As we said before, this data is not finalized because we're still looking at alternative pathways. This is broken down by school. So you have the number of students that need a particular test, the total number of students in that particular school that need to pass one or more tests, and these are not going to add up across because some students may have more than one test to pass, but this is the total number of students in that particular, total number of seniors, not students, in that particular school, and then that is the percentage of their seniors that still need to pass one or more tests. Last year we did something different that kind of impacted our numbers, but it goes with the philosophy of catching students up and making sure students graduate on time. And so we, instead of saying that my student is a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, or a senior, what we are looking at is their entry year. And if they graduated, or if they became a ninth grader in 2011, their entry year is 2011, we are looking for them to graduate in 2015. We're just adding those 4 years, and that should be, that student is on track if they are lined up to graduate in 2015. So what does that mean? It means that the student is earning sufficient credits to stay on track. For example, for ninth grade, in order for a student to formally move from freshman to sophomore status, they had to earn 4 credits, and 2 of those credits had to be in their major core subject. Now, one of the things we find out, and one of the things that we tell students is, what's 4 times 4? You guys can answer.
16.
16.
18.
See, that's that cross-categorical. You have to be ready to use it. Okay, so 4 times 4 is 16. Other trick question, how many credits do you need to graduate? 21. If I'm only earning 4 credits, wrong button. If I'm only earning 4 credits, you get me back there, then I am, as a freshman, then even though I am being promoted, I am really not going to achieve if I stay on that, if I only earn 4 credits per year. So that actually grows in increments. So to move from 9th grade to 10th grade, I only need 4. But to move from 10th grade to 11th grade, I need 9. So I had to earn 5. So it keeps growing. So not 4 is the bare minimum, and 2 of those have to be in core areas. For a student to be considered not on track, they've earned fewer than 4 credits, or they've earned 4 credits, but fewer than 2 in their core areas. So that student might have passed math and phys ed and Spanish and band, but they didn't pass the cores, and so they would still be considered not on track. One of the things that research shows is that if a student is retained in the 9th grade, they're at a higher risk for dropout. So we changed our terminology, and we are not saying that student is retained. We are saying that student is not on track. So we are going to keep working with you to try to work and catch you up to where you should be through summer school, through some credit recovery programs, etc. You have the opportunity, or that student has the opportunity, to catch up with their class. So even though as a 9th grader, and we all know that some 9th graders have a little bit of adjustment issues when they get into high school, and as we work on those adjustment issues, we work on catching up those credits. And so that student, though they faltered in 9th grade, is still able to come out in 2015 with the rest of their peers. As a result of that, we looked differently at our data. If you look at the blue, the not on track, those are the students who formerly would have been retained in the 9th grade. But because we are not operating on retention and we are operating on a graduation year, those are the statistics for the students that are considered on track and those that are not on track to graduate. So you can see we have our work cut out, but you can also see that we are already identifying those students, so we can work with those students to close that particular gap. Thank you. If you look at just the 9th graders or just the 10th graders that are currently considered on track, and you compare apples to apples, previously those students in the blue on the other slide would not have been able to take that OGT, and they would have been cheated out of one opportunity to take that test because they weren't considered 10th graders. But by not retaining them, they have an extra opportunity. And when you look at the results with those kids not being pulled out, you see that there's not very much change in the data at all. And this is the comparison.
Could you go back to the slide?
Which one? The other one?
That right there.
Okay.
You said there's not much.
Let me go back one. Let me go back one. This is if you consider every 10th grader who took the OGT this year. This group in the blue are students who are not on track, who in previous years would have not been allowed to take the test because they were 9th graders.
They were retained 9th graders.
Right, they were retained 9th graders, so they couldn't take the 10th grade test.
Yvonne, let me say one thing, just because we've got some veteran board members and new board members, a combination. In past years, we used to retain students. If they didn't earn those 4 credits that Yvonne was talking about, we would retain them and hold them back. So they wouldn't take the OGT when it was the following year because we kept them in 9th grade. Okay, they were 9th grade because they didn't earn enough credits to move on. Last year, this board voted to change that policy for all the reasons that Yvonne was saying, is that we're really, sometimes we had 18-year-old 9th graders because they weren't earning the credits because they were having trouble passing courses, and we would keep them there. This board, under our guidance from senior staff, we changed that to keep kids moving on. So even if they didn't earn the credits, we didn't retain them anymore. We moved them on to 10th grade because all the research shows you retain kids in 9th grade, you basically have decided they're not going to graduate. So to move them on and then focus on credit recovery with them. Get them into night school, get them into summer school, get them into credit recovery, but keep them moving with their peers. Because having an 18-year-old sitting with freshmen isn't, as freshman status and not having the opportunity to keep trying the OGT was hurting our kids. So that's why you're seeing data that's showing, so how did our kids perform who were earning credits and who would normally be a 10th grader, and then how did the kids perform who didn't earn enough credits? That's what this chart is showing. Does that make sense?
And as you can see,
Well, what am I missing? Why, if I'm looking at 2014 reading, does not on track and on track, why does that not equal 100%? We've got 78% that are on track for reading, but 57% not on track.
It's the percent on the number of students that are considered not on track, not of the whole. So when you look at the 78%, that's of the students, that's out of the students who were on track. So it's the percentage of the percentage that talks to one another. So it's not comparing apples to apples.
You have different denominators in both of those numbers.
so out of the 100% of the 10th grade students who are on track, 78 or almost 78% of them passed the writing proficiency or the reading proficiency. Of the students that were not on track and formally would not have been able to take the test, 57% of those passed it.
I get it. I get it. I got it. I know what I'm missing.
See, it was that math lesson you were adding.
The second chart on that one.
And so this one is comparing last year's students who were on track, because they were the only ones that were allowed to take the test, to this year's students who are on track.
So another way to say that is if we had kept the same policy as last year, if we had retained those kids again, this is how our kids would have performed this year. So looking at the OGT results, if we had retained all those current 10th graders who didn't have enough credits and taken them out of the numbers, here's how we would have performed. Okay, so this chart does not include off-track 10th graders. Okay, does everybody understand that? Because this is important. Because this is comparing apples to apples 2 years ago to this year. How did we perform? Pretty static. A couple areas went up. Okay? But pretty standard. And now the next chart, show the next chart. This is with the kids who normally we would have retained. Now this year they're in the numbers because we didn't retain them, right? So even if they had 2 credits, we moved them on to 10th grade and we tested them. And this is what our OGT results look like with those non-credit 10th graders in the numbers. So we gave you 3 different slices of the data.
And this is the chart that shows that by not retaining them, keeping them with their peers, they did better and improved versus.
We did see, we were surprised at how many of those kids that we used to retain, by moving them up, a bunch of them passed. Now, did it hurt our overall number? I mean, when we look at our total OGT results, it looks like we dropped. Because in past years, we retained all those kids, and there were 200 some additional kids that we tested this year than we've never tested before. But we moved them up, even though they didn't earn the credits. We moved them up and we tested them. So overall, it looks like our OGT results dropped. Underneath that, I'm really happy because some of those retained kids that we would have retained in the past, we moved them up and they actually passed, which is great.
So
That's
this
great
is
news.
a strategy to get those kids to remain in school versus dropping out of school.
Exactly. There you go. Okay.
And not only get them to just remain in school, but to get them to catch up with their counterparts and graduate on time.
Right.
Because what you don't want is, you don't want them not taking the test. We catch them up in credit, and now they're stuck in their senior year trying to pass the test. Whereas by them taking the test this year, we know what gaps they have, and we know what tests they didn't pass early, all right, so that we can give them the interventions that's needed to pass the other tests. So when they catch up with their credits, they're right back on track with their peers. Yeah? You got to look at the whole. You can't just say what we were focusing on was credit. They're behind in credit. Well, they still have enough of the curriculum to take the OGT, and they showed that they did, and they most of passed. Okay? Any other questions on that? So just in closing, Right? Our goal is to not only provide opportunities for our students to grow academically, but also for our students to grow socially. We continue to focus on that, as well as how they contribute to their communities, right? So that they are understanding if they're work and college ready. So when our students walk across the stage and we stand up and we say every graduate that walks across the stage has been validated and ready for work in college, we have to mean that. And we mean that by meeting core curriculum. We mean that by meeting all OGT requirements. We can't make that statement if they haven't met those requirements.
Question. It just be some numbers I would like to see. Of the seniors who are not going to walk across the stage, do we have any statistics to show how many of them actually went to intervention to try to gain that knowledge, and how many who did not?
Each building principal has that data.
I've been through this scenario quite a few times, and I want to thank you all for the work that you're doing and making some changes in it to encourage our young people to stay in school. Now, the other part of it is we've got a lot on paper, we're doing what we're supposed to do, but then I've got parents that come before us with heart-tugging responses. Somebody, somewhere, has dropped the ball.
Right.
Somebody, somewhere. Because if we're doing everything that we say we're doing here, you're taking the DAP, the GAP, the this, whatever test that tells me my child is not meeting whatever. What has been done for that child? I asked the question, did you get anything in your freshman year? No. Did you get something your sophomore year? No. Did you get something at home your junior year? No. So if a parent doesn't get something, or if a child doesn't give something to the parent, somewhere something has dropped the ball, and that child then, we find them 12 credits short on OGT, or points short on OGT. Something is missing there. I mean, where are we catching up? So that,
remember, I started off by saying we're in a partnership.
Right.
And that partnership can't be one-sided.
Correct.
It's two-sided. So we provide opportunity not only for our parents to come and for our students to come to get the information that's needed. And I'll just pass this around. This is a sample letter that goes out after, like right now, our juniors that did not pass the OGT, okay, they will receive that letter again saying, here's the courses you're short credit, and here's the subject.
Individually. They're going to get an individual letter.
Each parent, individual letter.
To the parent.
And the boxes are checked by the counselors with their scores of what they need and what interventions are in place. I'll give you an example. One of our high schools, whose data up there they were not very pleased with, they offered Saturday schools. So when I called 3 months ago and said, well, how's the Saturday schools going for the OGT prep? Because we know March is coming up, right? They had 2% of the students who were supposed to come show up, right? So through home visits, through letters, and through all calls, still no response. So I wouldn't say that the ball is being dropped. I would say that we have to rectify our partnership to ensure that the parents understand that there's a part that they play, the students understand there's a part that they play, the teachers play a part, the administrators play a part, and we all collaboratively ensure that we're doing what we're supposed to do.
How does that letter get home? Is it mailed to, it's not given to the child?
It's mailed, and it's also available when they do progress report pickup.
Okay, so both.
And then the child also gets one when they sit down with their counselor so that they understand their individual profile. Okay, and some of our schools, through their advisories, they have teachers that are assigned to constantly respond to the student and their needs. We have, through our career education program, we have been able to set up Play-Doh labs where students are able to go in with teachers and intervention specialists to work on their areas of weakness. We have after-school intervention programs where we pay teachers to host and stay after to help students. We have transition summer school. We have, you name it. We have it. But you can have all you want in place.
Right.
If every party, right, is not holding each other accountable. Sort of like what we heard at the early college. Okay? We're gonna hold every one of our classmates accountable, and when we see them not on track, we're gonna ensure that they're on track by going to the interventions if we have to go with them. And we have some students that doing the mentor programs and that are helping their peers because they want to see them walk across the stage as well. So as devastating as it is for a student to have a 399 and took care of all of the business in the classroom, it's still a reality, for us that that's going to happen to some of our students. But how we respond to it is we're getting that student as much support as possible.
This is one of the reasons why I asked the question I asked, because that'll give us some more information. It's some information I'll be interested in to see how many of these students actually took advantage, how many of them actually went to the intervention classes so they can try to pass this here. That just gives me some numbers and say, okay, here are, let's say there's 20 kids who are supposed to go, but only 5 of them showed up. Okay, why are these 5 just showing up? Why aren't the 20 showing up like they should so they can get the intervention that they need in order to move forward? Absolutely. So that would be interesting to me to
through
see
the
that.
sign-ins that we have for the students, the contracts that's created, and, a whole host of things to track what students. Now the students that did take advantage of it, you see the math.
Right. And that would.
So the alternative pathway, if I have a 2.5 in my class,
in the area that I'm
in that area of my class, but my attendance is at 85%.
I don't make it. We got to follow the state's guidelines.
And if you look at the attendance days, that's over a 4-year period. So it's not if I get the flu and I miss 10 days 1 year, it comes out to an average a little over 20 days throughout high school. That
5 days a year.
So it's an average of 5 days a year to meet that 97%.
2 questions, just to follow up on that one. I'm assuming excused days for campus visits, that doesn't come into, okay, thank you.
Excused days for campus visits don't even show as an absence,
Right.
They show as a field.
I just want to make sure. Sure, gotcha. Under the number that need to pass 1 or more tests, I did math, and if my math is correct, we have exactly 100 here. Do you have any idea how many of out of the 100, it's just 1 section they haven't?
I don't. We will be getting that. Just to give you an example, today we got 9 students that qualified for alternative pathway, which meant they only needed 1 test. And they were within that 390. And so as the grades start coming in and they see that they're meeting the GPA and we're checking the attendance and stuff, this is going down daily, but only for those kids within that 10-point range, that we can't just use 1 measure to say they didn't meet graduation requirements.
And I'll just give you the kids that we're looking at that just need 1 test that is above that 390 at AAA or Akron Alternative Academy. We have 5 students that fit that criteria.
12.
Now, this is without looking at the attendance.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
So at Booker, you have 7. I'm sorry, 9 of the 23. At East, you have 4 of the 6. If they meet, they got the score.
Sure.
Now it's determined if they meet.
And I don't need them, that's fine.
Okay.
Well, we've got a large Kenmore group, but what's Kenmore?
Kenmore, there's 4 out of the 11 students.
4 out of the 11, so that's, if they have, that's 7, if they meet all the other requirements.
What's our average attendance, district-wide at high school, percentage?
It varies.
But it's not.
Per school, but
but these kids for pathway have to get, what's the percentage? 97%.
Over their membership.
Gotcha.
Based on the time that they enroll.
Which shows you how important the attendance
So
is.
we go all the way back to what NAPSI we talked about with children in middle school who say, I'm going to be there every day. No matter what has happened, I'm going to be there every day. So that's the partnership you talked about. You start early and you keep working at it. And when you get in high school, you have that kind of mental thought, I'm going to work at it to do. As you're right, it's a partnership. My concern is I don't want us dropping the ball on our side because I don't want parents to come and say, my child didn't make it because you didn't do your job. Now, if the student or the parent didn't do their job,
we can't, I mean, as Bruce was saying, you got room for 20 students, only 5. You've sent home this letter, you've done this, done that. I mean, we get knocked around because we say we don't do our job, or you don't do your job as administrators. But if we have all these things available and people don't take advantage of it, I mean, that's all we can do is offer them.
And the reports, I mean, through our e-school, the reports are available. That's how the counselors get to know their students.
Right.
They run a report of all their students that qualify for the alternative pathway, that does not qualify, students that, you know, are struggling credit-wise. You know, there's reports, you know, that Howard and his team has created where you pull up the student, it highlights red what they need, you know, right away. So it gives the counselors quick and dirty data so that they, when they're sitting down with that student, even our assistant principals, you know, one of our goals this year, if I got a student in my office for a discipline referral, it's my opportunity to look and see what if the student's on track or if they're not on track, and to put the things in place. Not only discipline them for the behavior, but also keep them on track for the academics. So that's a mindset change.
Can I ask a curriculum question? Percentage-wise, just, I mean, with the exception of Folkville, kind of stands out with math and social studies, but there seems to be overwhelmingly science is giving the kids a hard time. So, is there a curriculum issue on our end aligning with what's on the OGT, or?
When we do the alignment, we don't see the misalignment. This is very typical across the state. Science is what trips. Yeah, that's
OGT and ACT.
But it's not a curriculum issue, it's a...
Well, Mark and I actually talked today about some strategies going into this next year for science. We have a lot of interventions around reading and math. We have the OGT prep type sessions, but looking at during the school year on repeating some courses right before the science test to make sure that when you're doing the science test, you're in retaking a class, even if you're auditing it, so that you've got that material fresh. For reading and math, that's a little bit easier for us to do because you're always in a math class that's readying you for that test. But for science,
I mean, can they take them backwards too? Can they wait to take the science until?
Well, they're starting to take this in 10th grade, so you don't want to wait. But one of the things that I've heard from the students as well as the science teachers is that science is subject specific. So my physical science is going to have absolutely nothing to do with my biology as compared to my chemistry. So it's kind of a guess as to what's going to be on the test this particular year as compared to if I'm writing. That's going to continue no matter how advanced my writing gets. And so I think that's one of the reasons for the difficulty in science, because I may not have seen physical science for a year, and that's what is heavy on the test this year. Next year it might be heavy on biology, and so it's content specific, and we need to find some kind of way, as Dr. McWilliams was saying, to help those kids refresh things that they may not have seen for a year.
Otherwise, again, stressing the importance of well and the attendance.
I have one more question. Just to clarify it all.
I just want this to go down. This is the longest standing.
Stand up. Like being online. All right. The alternative to pathway, those guidelines come from the state, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I clarify it so that everyone else understands that those guidelines don't come from Akron Public Schools, but they do come from the state.
It comes from the state, and it's also based on, your board policy, like what you're grading,
Right.
So when you're looking at a 2.5, it's based on what your grading policy is.
Right.
and just one last minute. Our work doesn't stop here. That's why our dropout rate and graduation rate is typically the highest among the urban 8. We keep going. We create a spreadsheet. We track every single kid that ends up on this list that doesn't qualify for the alternative pathway. And we track them and work individually with every single parent to make sure that they get into summer school, they get into AAA if they don't pass this summer. We keep working and working and working, and literally every week, Mark updates me on what's happened with each kid on that list. all the way through next year as we keep tracking. And you get to take advantage of seeing that graduation ceremony that we do in the fall with the summer graduates, and then even after that, continuing to work with the families through AAA, our alternative academy, to continue to make sure that they're earning credits and passing their OGT.
And I just want to say, though some of our policies we've continued because of previous boards, some of us on this board were extremely sensitive to parents who came to us because a child was missing just that one grade or missed that one test. So we instituted a graduation in the fall so that the child could celebrate, parents could celebrate, because we were aware that you have that gap where it may be just the one thing that kept them from actually graduating, and thus far that has been successful. Students have come back, parents have come back, they've been able to celebrate. No, it's not the same as graduating with your class, but it is a celebration that one can take part in, and this board, some of us on that board, on this board, want to make sure that that was in place because we were very, very sensitive to students who missed by just a little bit and give them that opportunity.
All this data and tracking students, I don't do it alone, so Yvonne Culver helps out with this. Joanne Isaac for teaching and learning does the technology for us. If you could stand, please, Helen Willis. Come on. Helen Willis, she crunches the numbers to make sure that you're in line, and she will not pass anything until she looks at it. She looks at it about 4 or 5 times. Sometimes it drives me crazy, but hey, it's a good thing. And then Howard Lawson and his department keeping us on the up and up. And just so you know, hopefully I can come back in August because Howard and I'll be working on looking at our 4-year graduation data, because as long as the student graduates or we deem them a graduate before the first day of school, they go into our 4-year graduation data. After that, we, like Dr. McWilliams said, we continue. Okay, so after that, they go into our 5-year data, and this is the 2nd year for the 5-year data, and I know Helen's already crunched the numbers for that, so we'll be willing to share that with you guys at another point. Yes.
And again, there's an article in the paper. We, I think, have the 2nd lowest dropout rate of the urban school districts, and as you were saying, one of the highest graduation rates. So we're trying to do.
Ultimately, ideally, we'd like to have 100% graduation rate.
Correct.
And so, absolutely. To that point, and I appreciate, the presentation was really good, but it seems to me, when they pay me the big money here, the reason why I got paid is because Mr. Jack gets something to say I cash my check. I would think that when it comes to making sure students who go to school for 13 years get this information, there should be some way of being able to know a parent got the information. I don't know if we're doing that piece. I don't know how to do it either, but it just seems that 13 years in, there has to be, because my kid pull out stuff out of her pocket all the time. Teacher called me and asked me, and she a really good student. What about that permission slip? Well, I never saw it, and I'm really tuned out on all calls. I mean, if I get one more, I don't want to know. So I just want to figure out, well, how's the way? I mean, this is big. I mean, this is like the ultimate paycheck to make sure the parent gets that information. I know, sending me communications don't mean you communicated. That's just how I get lots of information, but you really ain't communicate a whole lot to me. And I'm not saying you, APS, but I'm just saying, what is a way, at 13 years in, how can we do that 5 people show up to, or whatever, how do we know what happened? I mean, look at the class number overall. I mean, the number of folks who are really in trouble is really a small number. It may even so smaller when you go directly to the school. What can we do different?
And I think those are exactly some of the conversations. I know one of the things that the counselors are pushing is to do an advisory board, a counselor advisory board within the school. And those are the questions that we need to ask the parents. if we're sending letters, if we're doing on-calls, if we're having programs, if we're having parent meetings, what needs to happen? How can we make it look differently so that you are engaged? Because our goal, all of our goal, is for the students to be successful and to graduate, and not only graduate, but graduate prepared to move on to the next thing. And we need some help, we need some ideas saying, what kind of things would you be willing to come to? What's the best way to communicate? Because there are some gaps in communication that we need to close, and it's a partnership.
Right. You know, because, last comment, even for third grade reading guarantee, you know, my kids come out with smiley face in 98. I really don't connect this hold in the back because of some testing. If a student is coming home all through the year and passing all their grades, I mean, I don't really know if I connect that. I connect it because I'm here, but I don't know if those pieces even, I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense to me. But
Our OGT results, are they mailed home also from the state? The state mails them just like they do OAA results.
Correct.
Right. So that's also a piece. You get that in the mail every time your kid takes the test. You get it.
yeah, but does it, I'm just.
Well, it's the same.
The OGT say, no, this OGT test result supersedes all of the grades you got from your school.
It's one of the, it's one of
I know
the
it does, but
graduation
as me as a parent, do I now look at this and the OGT says, when I get the paper, this now override everything?
So there was a little bit of a segue there from OGT because Mary Kelly has a 1 minute here in your folder. There are updated third grade guarantee because on the left-hand side, Mary Kelly, come on up. As you know, we're working just like the seniors, we're working every minute of the day on our third grade guarantee students, and Mary has an update ending the year, going into the summer on our third grade guarantee, and this is very, very good news.
I like this.
Zeros are always good, except if they're in my checking account. So, you know, when we're talking about retention, zeros are fabulous. So we just want to give you an update. At the top, there's a criteria that was outlined just to remind you that these are students who are on the list because, one, they received a 392, less than a 392 on their fall reading OAA. And on the map that we talked about the last time, they received less than a 181. And also, they did not qualify for any of the exemptions that ODE provides us with. So, when I was here last time, we had 23% of our students who were left still at risk for retention, and now we are sitting at 4.18%.
Right.
So I think so because we are the foundation, and so we want to send them on very strong. Yes.
Do we know how, and this is really good, I don't want to take anything away from it, do we know how many, or what the breakdown is of why the decrease? So of that 21, which are 20%, you know, how many of those raise the score here or qualified for an exemption there?
Well, the reason, if you recall, to make sure I'm answering your question properly, we had an adjustment in our scores because our map had the wrong cut score. So that was one of the adjustments we made, was because they had aligned their cut score, the state,
right.
Yeah, not us, the state aligned the cut score to be equal to being proficient. And really it should have been aligned to the 392 of the OAA. And so they reduced it to 181. So that took over 100 kids off our list because they had already met that criteria. And so we just recently gave another map, and we had another about difference. About 70 more kids come off the list because they met that cut score of 181 or higher. So what you see in front of you are students who have not met one of the 2 cut scores or one of the exemptions that we are afforded.
Another real quick on the kind of Debbie Downer side on your fantastic news, so please forgive me for that. For the students that are not enrolled in the academy yet, are there some of these folks that we're still struggling to make contact with? They may have very legitimate reasons why they can't do that, but have we made some kind of contact with all of these folks in some way?
Yes, we are actually, our principals were the first and our teachers, they've been working very, very hard, contacting the parents. Some of this is due to our mobility. So we actually have new students. For instance, I called one of our schools and they said they only have 1 student who's on the list, and I believe that was Krause only has 1 student, and it was because they just enrolled in the district. And so she has contacted the parents and explained it to them, and they're going to sign off. They just are new and they haven't done it yet. And then we do have a student like at Robinson. We have been researching, why are you not signed up? Robinson is a transportation issue, and we are delighted that we're working on transportation for all of our students who qualify. Mrs. Polk is overseeing that, making sure they're picked up and transported to our academy location.
I want to make a comment. I applaud you doing that, but this just goes back to what Veronica was saying about the high school graduation. You got 31% of the kids that don't qualify still haven't signed up.
Right.
And
it goes back to that whole partnership conversation I've been hearing throughout the evening. Again, some of it is because of mobility. These are new students. The parents are just now finding out they have to come. Others, we have 1 student on here who the parents said they're moving. We still want you to sign up, even though you think you're going to move, just in case you don't. They're signed up, better safe than sorry. And then there's others who have just said they refuse, and we're going to do home visits. So we will document, we've been documenting our contacts with our parents, because it is important, We haven't done any all calls. I don't know if I will now. I was scheduled to do some, but I think I may not. But anyway, so we do look for any opportunities to make that connection. And now we're going to do personal visits. And Officer Moore has agreed to go out with us, just to make sure, we get to the homes. And I can feel important in this one.
Thank you for that.
Okay, you're welcome. Anytime. Oh, I do want to say one thing. At the very bottom, it does outline that the students are going to have 3 opportunities, so they're not done quite yet. So we're still waiting on our spring OAA results. They are to come into the district the week of June 16th. So if they meet that cut score again of 392, we're going to celebrate for them, let their parents know that they get to move on. And then after our 4-week reading academy, we're going to have an opportunity for them to take the math and another OAA.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, our next order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes. We have 3 of them: the regular meeting for May 12th, special meeting for May 14th, and the special meeting for May 20th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any questions or comments concerning those meetings? It's coming up. Okay, roll call, Mr. Ray.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
yes.
Mrs. Sims?
Yes.
Kevin Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Superintendent.
Madam President, I have before me for your consideration 28 personnel recommendations and supplement number 1, the reappointment list for administrative staff for the 2014-15 school year. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any questions or comments on personnel? Ellen, I don't know what you're going to do without Bab.
I was about to say, I saw.
Or her cheerful emails that she sends to us. They are the most cheerful emails. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, Mr. Pearson.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Bravo.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardi. Yes. Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Sims.
Yes.
Kevin Walker.
Yes.
And at this time, I'll ask Kathy McVeigh to introduce a couple of new appointees.
Yes, we have two new principals to introduce to you tonight. First, I'd like Andrea Aller to stand, please. Andrea is a graduate of Huron High School and earned her bachelor's degree from Bowling Green State University in 1998 and a master's degree in education from the University of Toledo in 2003. And she received her principal's license in May of 2010. She did her student teaching in the Toledo Public Schools, and then she began her career there as a special education teacher, where she worked for 4.5 years. In 2003, she came to Akron Public Schools and became a special ed teacher at Betty Jane Elementary, and she worked there for about 7 years. In 2011, she became an interim assistant principal at Barrett Elementary, followed by an internship at Mickey Bright for 1 year. This past year, she began the year split between Harris and King, and since the beginning of March and February, she's been at Harris as an interim principal. She's being recommended tonight for an elementary principal position, and she will be assigned to Harris Elementary School. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity. I'm so very grateful to be able to lead the staff, students, and community at Harris. We've started some great partnerships with the University of Akron football players this year. We're planning on continuing those. I've had some wonderful leaders that I worked under, including Mrs. Dean that was able to come tonight. So I just thank you, and I look forward to a great school year next year.
Next up, Mr. Kenyon Harrington. Mr. Harrington is a graduate of Alliance High School. He earned his bachelor's degree from the University of Toledo in 1999, and then obtained his master's degree in educational supervision and administration from Westminster College in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania in 2002. He received his high school principal's license in March of 2003. He began his career as an English teacher in Youngstown, where he worked for 3 years. And following that, he spent the next 5 years in a variety of administrative positions, among them an assistant principal, an academic dean, and principal. In 2008, he was appointed as the principal of Brush High School in Lyndhurst, Ohio, which is the position that he leaves now to join our Akron Public Schools family. Mr. Harrington is being recommended for a high school principal position, and he will be assigned to Firestone High School. Welcome. Congratulations.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Board of Education, Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, and those individuals that were part of the interviewing committees. I'm gracious for the opportunity. I'm happy to be able to work with the staff in the upcoming school year to continue moving kids forward in a positive direction and helping them achieve. I'm also appreciative to be here tonight to hear all the passion from everybody as it relates to kids and making sure we're doing what's best for kids and moving them in the right direction as well. On a side note, I promised my son that I would tell you thank you on his behalf because it's his birthday, and in his mind, anything good today is because of him. So thank you, thank you very much.
What's his name?
His name is Kenya Jr., but we call him KJ.
Okay.
All right, and next, Madam President, I have before me for your consideration 5 motions and 9 resolutions on the consent agenda. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So move.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Roll call, Mr. Pearson.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Bravo.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardi.
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Sims.
Yes.
Kevin Walker.
Yes.
And finally, Madam President, I have before me for your consideration 12 business affairs recommendations. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So move.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any questions or comments on business affairs? none. Roll call, Mr. Pearson.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Bravo.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardi.
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Sims.
Yes.
President Walker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. James. I'm going to be really brief tonight. I brought Kwame's picture because it was so awesome to open up the beacon. I knew it was coming. Anyway, I had been given a heads up that it was, and also had seen it online the night before, but it was the first place I went to that morning was to look this up and to see his face. One of the things that I think is most special is what Ms. Sims already mentioned. One of the things that I think made him stand out, he didn't have the 4.7 GPA that some of these other students had, whatever that is. But what he did have was a desire to not just do his best, but to take everyone he could and to continue to take everyone that he can with him. And I think that sets an example for not just any students that we have, but also for us as a board to always remember to reach alongside and to make sure that those that are with you continue with you. And I would encourage those who, we've heard from some folks who've had some stories that are really tough to take tonight. And one of the reasons that has happened, perhaps, is because someone didn't reach alongside and say, let me take you with me. Let's graduate together. Let me help you. So I would encourage them to look at the example that he set and to, maybe we'll have more of these next year that are in that list because they've reached alongside and said, let me take you with me. That's all I have tonight. We're going to let Mr. Pearson talk.
This GPA was a very good GPA.
It was a fantastic GPA. Better than anything I ever saw, so we'll just say that. It was amazing. And an associate's degree 2 days later, so not putting that aside. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for passing the 5-year forecast. Talk about it briefly. Obviously, the good news at the bottom of page 7, we're in the black all 5 years of the forecast, which is the second 5-year forecast in a row we've been able to show that, which is fantastic. The bottom of page 2, on the narrative, talk about the new funding formula a little bit and how it is different from the old funding formulas in that there's a ratio between the state's valuation, state median income, and the districts. And basically that determines our funding percentage in state revenue. This is the first year that we've had a funding formula like that, and one of the weaknesses of that formula right now is that the state is not required to provide districts with a projection of where the valuation is going to be, where the median income might be, where the enrollment might be. And those are all factors that go into calculating that forecast. So hopefully that will be a change that the legislature puts in somewhere down the road to get some consistency with districts using the same data to project that formula. On page 12 of the projection, you see the changes that the superintendent is going to have for next year's staffing. And I believe those are the main things that we haven't talked about in the past. We've talked about the forecast the last couple of meetings. Did anyone have any other questions that they might want to ask right now about it?
I know there was, legislature has approved that a school district cannot, as far as the, not property, but commercial taxes, that we can't ask businesses to not...
Can't contest it on the county level.
Can't contest, right. And so how is that going to affect us going down the road?
We don't know. We aren't in favor of that happening. that could have a negative impact on us. I don't know how anyone considers that equitable. If a business can petition to have their property reduced and the board determines that it should be reduced, fine, it's reduced. Same thing goes for the district. If the district finds property that they believe is undervalued, why shouldn't we be able to challenge that also to have it brought up to the level that it should be? And in the long run, it's a detriment to the taxpayers, the other taxpayers in the district, because if one taxpayer isn't paying their fair share, that causes us not to receive the money that we should be receiving, and we may have to go back to the taxpayers soon.
Any other questions? Committee reports tonight. I know legal has some, finance perhaps.
Yes. I have, for the first of three readings, policy 1145, which is new policy retirement of board employees, policy 3145, which is a new policy retirement for board employees, and policy 4145, which is revised for retirement of board employees. That's all I have now.
Tim or Patrick?
Read our donations. 20 tickets to the Akron Symphony Chorus performance from Akron Symphony to Project Rise. 30 meals from the University of Akron College of Education to Project Rise. $10 from Hannah King to Project Rise to support programming for homeless children in need. $25 from Ted Dudra to Project Rise. $100 from Mark and Patricia Del Propos to Project Rise. $630 from KSU College of Business, which were proceeds from the Business Consulting and Practicum Fundraiser Project to Project Rise. $2,000 from Omnova Solutions Foundation to Project Rise for summer programming. $300 from Jill Grace to Findlay CLC for supplies for guidance counselors, positive behavior rewards program. $1,000 from Omnova Solutions Foundation to Bridges for the mini soapbox derby kits for the Bradley Race Challenge. It was fun last year. $1,146.70 from Cyberland PTA to Cyberland CLC to purchase rock wall climbing apparatus for the new gym. $1,560 worth of 2-inch and 3-inch binders from Ace Mitchell Rollers Mart to Akron Public Schools district-wide. $2,000 from Joanne Stores to Barber CLC for T-shirts for 6th graders leaving Barber. The kindergarten field trip and the school suite.
Did everyone see the picture of the rock wall? We were sent pictures of it today, so check your email. It's very cool. Any other committee reports? In unfinished business, the superintendent has something to share.
Yes, was that last week?
It was.
Well, last week I attended the spring choral concert at Firestone, where I presented a resolution authorizing the naming of the choral room at the new Firestone Community Learning Center in the honor of Sally Schneider. I just like a resolution to approve what I had just did out at the building, so it's all legal.
Mr. Properly seconded. Any discussion or questions about that? I know Mr. Miller was at the concert. I was at the concert. I went after the teacher appreciation dinner, and it gave the full definition of standing room only in that place. It was amazing. And the superintendent assures me she was very surprised.
Yes, she was.
So I have a question, not necessarily about Sally. She sounds like a nice lady. How do this happen? How do people get rooms, buildings named? Is that a groundswell from the teachers there? Is that the students? How does that happen?
It's happened. So in the past, we've had either support among board members, because we have some former board members who have rooms named after them, like the Linda Mobian Learning Resources Center at Helen Arnold, or the Linda Kersker Auditorium at Firestone. Or I also attended last week the Susan Yingling art room at Miller South.
The gallery.
Yes, the gallery.
Yeah, my question was.
So it can be community support.
Okay.
We were petitioned by the community.
Okay.
Or it could be years of service as it relates to a board member. Or a board member, some board members have asked when they leave a service if this board would agree to name a particular place where they may have provided service, or they may have had some history that they would want that person, or that, for instance, Linda Mobian, the library or service there at that particular school, because of history with Helen Arnold and with that community in that area there. So it happens a number of ways.
Or this
building was named after the former superintendent. Or the baseball field over at Firestone. It was the community that saw the work of that individual who had given so much support, time, and they petitioned the board. Would we then agree that we would name that facility? And I assume that's the way it's happened with the buildings over the years. Various buildings were named after persons in the community, either superintendents or principals or et cetera, persons that were in the community that this board then, community may have brought to our attention and said, we'd like this building named after so-and-so. The last one, Sam Salem and Helen Arnold, I think the last two that we've named.
So there's nothing just hard and set fast. It can come from anywhere.
Basically, I mean, but it can't just come out with no merit or no foundation.
I know we've
there's
discussed
some history or some legacy, some significance that people want to highlight a room or a building and name of someone. For instance, the building we're in now, long service history, former superintendent, first, I believe, African-American superintendent in the Akron public school system. So staff and individuals felt that it would be worthy to have something in his honor. So the previous board then named this facility after a former superintendent.
We've discussed the fact that we want to perhaps do something for LeBron James, for all
Right,
the...
we want to do something, right.
We're still discussing what that might be.
We've talked about that.
Talked about that as a board.
What could we do to honor him, and what would be feasible that we as a board, I'm sorry, certain things I can't say, but that we as a school board wanted to do. Right, and honoring Mr. James.
I think you had a thought bubble there. That
Right, I wanted to say something, but I didn't want to say something that would be taken the wrong way.
So we need a vote on that. Roll call.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Rallo?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardi? Yes. Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Sims?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
All right. In new business, for those of you who don't know, which I think everyone does, we are unfortunately losing Mr. Pearson at the end of the fiscal year. And so we have two presentations tonight from some search firms that are going to help us in search to hire a new treasurer, because those are the two positions that the board picks. The superintendent and the treasurer are our hires. So they're going to present to us, are both folks?
Raspo is here.
All right, well then we'll let...
So is OSBA.
Okay, if you'd like to go first, that would be fine.
Pass these around and start here. There should be enough for everybody at the table and a couple extras. And then I wanted to answer your question. I can't help myself, sorry, but that question you asked about the property, that is still in conference committee. So if any of you want to email, especially legislators that are in the majority party, and voice your objections, we would be appreciative of that, because it was stuck in that bill, never was approved by the committee that it was in, and so.
It's out of the Senate, though.
It's
already out of the Senate, right?
But it's in a conference committee, which will finish by the end of Friday. Well, good evening. My name is David Varda. I am the Executive Director of the Ohio Association of School Business Officials. First of all, I want to, Jack and I have been colleagues and friends for some time, mostly, but when I left Upper Arlington Schools in late '99 to join Dr. Zellman's staff at the Department of Ed, is when we got to know each other better, but which was some 14 years ago. And as was stated earlier, he's been a great voice for the Akron Public Schools, and that has always been focus number one, and focus 1A has been speaking out for urban education in the state of Ohio. So we're thankful of Jack's participation in our association. He's a well thought of colleague, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. I will be brief and allow it more to be questions. OASBO, we do searches for treasurers and CFOs. Our approach is a little different in that we use consultants to assist us. In this area of the state, we partner with Mr. Dan Wilson, who is, both of our resumes are in here, and Dan is still practicing. He is the treasurer of Mentor Schools. You would see from his history, he's done a lot in this county. I think Hudson a couple of times, and Cuyahoga Heights, and so he is familiar with Summit County. But basically, our approach to the search, and I will get right to it, is that if you look, right here, sorry about that. I have this, I just want to walk you through our steps. We feel strongly that we work with the board, the superintendent, and those identified by the board to develop what we call a search profile. It is our position and our belief that there are people that won't think about applying for Akron Board of Education's treasurer's job unless we call them and ask them to think about it. In fact, in our last 6 or 7 searches, about 5 of those successful candidates never even entertained. It was after we obtained this search profile that we developed, and I'll tell you in a second how we do that, that we then match people that we know in the business would best match up to the search profile. They may be usually very successful in their own district, not really looking to make a change, but because of their talents, we think they are a good fit, and we will try to cajole, strong arm, or whatever tactic we can, and make them interested, all kidding aside. But we really do work hard on that part of the search. Basically, the way we develop that profile is each board member is individually interviewed, and on the right side, I got this one down, sorry about that earlier, you will see this thing that says Search Profile Development Questionnaire. Each one of these, with the board member and the superintendent, and hopefully with your permission, the retiring treasurer, and we will interview by phone. It's a phone interview, so there's not the cost of travel from where our person will call you, but go through this interview to get your opinions And the biggest thing is number 4, we really kind of force you to rank these so that we can see the possible differences and concurrences where the board is matched up. And we would also then identify if in districts we work with, we'll send these out to administrative staff, but it'll be a paper and pencil response. Boards have identified finance committee members, city council members, people that you think you would want to know their opinion on who should be sitting in Jack's position. All that data is then put into a search profile, which is reviewed with the Board of Education and the superintendent, and then we publish that and use it for our use to be able to go after people. The other big thing is that in the same process as we're doing that, we're also getting a brochure ready. We will make sure that every treasurer in the state of Ohio receives announcement of the vacancy. Also, if you identify people that maybe you know through the business, people that you think might be a good match for Akron schools, we usually ask the board not to contact them directly if you've employed a search firm, because that may give them the wrong impression of your contact, and we would ask you to do that. When we did the Cincinnati search, and I know sometimes urban districts, and if we were employed, we'd want to have a discussion about, are there other states you want us reaching out to? We have a network with our other affiliates where we can announce through theirs. We can announce it nationally. Cincinnati schools, for example, we use the job board system at the Ohio Society of CPAs. They were interested in non-traditional candidates, so to speak. We had candidates from Indiana and Illinois for that opening. So it's really that is something you can drive us to do or not do. Our goal is to actively recruit candidates and screen those that do show interest. We generally will make a recommendation to you of 3 to 5 people sometimes it's been more than that, depending on the quality of the candidate pool, and to do a brief 50-minute interview that first round, and then identify finalists that will come back in a more structured, and you'll decide, do you want them to meet with community groups, do you want them to meet with the administration, that process, and in a more in-depth view to really make sure that's the right person for the Akron Board of Education and to work with your staff. In the end, if you get to the point, generally I know that in districts of this size, they usually internally want to do the contract negotiations, but that is a service, and some of our clients, we are very active in helping with that process. In other clients, like in Cincinnati, since they had their own HR department in place and their own legal counsel in place, they took care of that on their own. But other districts, recently we concluded Beaver Creek in Greene County and Vandalia Butler in Montgomery County, and both of those we were very active in helping the board come to an agreement with the successful candidate in the contract process. But that is, the one question I'm always asked is, how long does this take? And a part of that depends on your commitment to it. Just for example, Vandalia Butler, which we just concluded, and they deployed, on May 12th, the candidate, and we started that process in early February. Our first meeting with the board was in early February, so if that gives you an idea of the process. We're working with the board right now that we're actually going to hopefully get it done by June 20th, and we just started that, and part of that is because we still their treasurer to go to Vandalia Butler, we're doing a more expedited approach with them. If you get to the point and you need to have an interim treasurer and you don't have any, I don't know your staffing, if you have somebody internal for that, we also can help with that process if that's necessary. So I think that's all. I'm not going to go over the background of DM. You can see that for yourself and myself. But I think between us, I'm scared to add up what those two numbers are. But I think it's somewhere well over 70 years of experience in the business. And one last thing I did, there is a thing on K-12 business consulting in there. We would use them to do the interviewing. We partner with them basically if you take 70, everything south of 70, we partner with K-12, and everything north, we partner with Dan Wilson and another company in the northeast part. But because of the expertise they have in developing the searches, we would use somebody from that firm to actually do the search process, to develop the search profile. Sorry. So, questions? That's good to see you. And if you're, just as you're looking through, if you decide, or as you're deciding, this is what we would cover in a first meeting. We always have a first meeting, so if that, I think I saw your next meeting is June 9th, if you selected us and June 9th was the night you wanted to meet, then this would be the agenda that we would work our way through. So just give you a heads up, something to decide on whether we're the right one or wrong one, just a sample for you to see what to expect that night if we are chosen. So.
If we wanted to push that up and do something sooner, could you do a first meeting within a few days? How long would it take to set up a first meeting?
Not knowing exactly Dan's schedule, but we would accommodate you. I mean, the only dates I wouldn't be available next week because my board's meeting to do my evaluations, I will have to be there. But would be the 4th and 5th. But other than that, that would be easy to accommodate.
What other questions do you all have? Anything?
Yeah, I'm just curious, if we got, hypothetically, we got down, you recommended 3 to 5 to us, and we didn't like any of them, I'm assuming we'd have to start from scratch.
Oh, that's a great question. First of all, if you did, we would start from scratch, but there'd be no additional cost on to you. I mean, that $7,500 is to the end, whether we go 5 rounds or 1 round. I mean, that we're committed to Akron schools for the entire search. We don't say, oh, well, we got through the first round, we didn't do anything, so it's more money.
It's the same cost whether we use your expertise in negotiating contract or we do that internally, it's just whatever.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yes. Because really, to be honest with you, the bulk of the money is in the search profile and the recruiting. And helping develop the questions for the first round of interviews.
In your experience, have you found any advantage to going out of state or any disadvantage going out of state? My understanding there's a licensing issue if you bring somebody from out of state in.
There's, if you go out of the state or a non-traditional route, we have people that are very successful at doing that. If they have not met the licensure requirements and you like that candidate, then you would have to bear some cost of an interim treasurer until they met the licensure requirements. For a person that is not, let's say a CFO for a small, any size company, they would certainly probably meet the internship requirements, but they would probably not have met the course requirements of school finance and school law. Online, you can get those fairly quickly. I did the search, had a gentleman online within 4 weeks had his 2 courses met, so if the person wants to do it. But that is the problem. If you go out of state, there's no reciprocity. So if they are in school administration and their coursework doesn't meet the Department of Ed's definition of school finance and school law, they may need course requirements. The assumption would be they would not need the intern. We wouldn't bring in somebody that would need the intern.
As a treasurer yourself, what's your opinion on the difficulty of somebody coming from another state, from another funding, knowledge base, or I mean, are those kind of, are they successful at all? Is it would
I
be worth our
think
time?
that there's two issues in Ohio. Like, every state has its own funding system. So if you entertain somebody from another state, that's going to be an issue.
Sure.
But they're professionals, they'd be highly trained, and I'm sure, I mean, they would be able to. I've been in it 30 years, I'm not sure I understand it, so, all the time. But I think they would, you know, we're talking about chief financial officers that would have a track record, and that would just be a learning curve you would be expecting. The other issue, what was funding, and I think the other issue would be just understanding, I mean, when you go with somebody out of state, some states don't have forecasting. 5-year forecasting is not totally unique to Ohio, but pretty unique, especially to the level where it has to be approved by the Board of Education. Professionals do it, but it's mostly an internal document, not an external document as it's become in Ohio, and sometimes it's the test of the district is the 5-year forecast. So you would I would want to be sure that that person has the knowledge of what's necessity to be a good forecaster.
You said when you interview people that you guys have a list of questions that you come up with.
Right.
Would we be able to see those questions as
no,
well?
Absolutely. That's basically we would work with you. Questions are really built based on what the profile says and what those characteristics you're looking for. When we give those questions, not only are they structured in that we always ask them in the first round, they're very structured and the same person asks the same question. In there we have notes or keys on what to look for, what's good, what's bad, so that as you're listening to the answer, we're asking somebody about collaboration, and every other statement is I did this, I did that. That would probably be not good for collaboration. But so that's the kind of things we would have little notes. Look for this, look for that. The second round would generally be a present. Now you're down to the finalists. You would expect them to do a presentation either on their 5-year forecast or some financial report. And then we would build more specific questions that you want to know more about them. Because at that point, they've passed the technical. Now it's do they fit into our team? And the questions you ask David Varda may be very different than what you ask Jack Pearson in a finalist situation. And last thing, the importance of the profile too, is that I think I have a very good, stellar career as a treasurer. Dan Wilson has one, Jack Pearson, but it doesn't mean we fit into every district in the state, and it's the search firm's role to make sure that person fits into what you're looking for.
We need the second coming of Jack Pearson. That's what we're looking for.
Well, seriously, that's going to be a positive and a negative. There are people that will not want to follow Jack Pearson because of his legendary status.
That's meaning when somebody qualified like him, able to do the job that he does.
But there will be others that'll say, hey, I know that the financial, and I'm enthusiastic about public education, and I think I can make a difference, and I don't have to worry about whether the books are good or bad. I know that, and that's a positive. I didn't want to just leave you with the negative. But there will be some that will shy away from wanting to replace someone.
That'd be good. I mean, they're not good as Jack.
Yeah.
They don't have confidence in themselves.
Yeah, and they have to be willing to give up their chocolate mousse.
Absolutely.
You know,
At least once a year.
at least once.
Veronica's not giving up her chair, so that's going to be part of the test.
That's
too.
right. I'm gonna sit back.
All right, thank you so much. Any other questions? I'm sorry. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
OSBA is not new to the search process. We have conducted almost 1,000 superintendent and treasurer searches since 1981. We have a long history of success with our search process, and we have 43 executive staff and professional staff who work side by side to support all of our individual searches that we facilitate. We're very proud of that. We don't hire consultants, we don't reach out to those outside of the OSBA community, except for partnering with us to find you really good candidates. We have a search process that is facilitated by actually 4 dedicated search consultants, myself, the director of the Board Services Division, and 3 other consultants who have a total of 100 years of service to public education in the state of Ohio in all capacities, including board member, administrators, teachers, and even a professor at higher ed in her historical career background. We have a process that's very similar to other search processes, and so I'd like to start by explaining a little bit about what sets us apart from others and the benefits to you as board members and as a community using our search process. And then I'll give you a little bit about each of the steps of the process and then give you plenty of time to ask questions because I'm sure you have plenty of those. First of all, what sets us apart? First of all, we are your association. We work for boards of education. That's who we live for. That's why our association exists. We are not headhunters. We do not work for treasurers, candidates who are interested in working here. We always take the perspective of the Board of Education. Not all search firms can say that. We feel that it's your legal and ethical responsibility to hire the 2 top leaders of your school district, and that you need a search firm who's going to always work on your behalf, not on the behalf of the candidates. That sets us apart in a very significant way. The other item that sets us apart, or quality that sets us apart, is our connections. Our national and statewide and local and regional connections to treasurers, both experienced and new, from all walks of life and from all school districts. We have a vast connection through the National School Boards Association. We have a strong connection with the Council of Urban School District Boards of Education. We have a very strong connection with my competitor who just walked out of the room with OASBO. They're housed in our building, and we work very closely together to support each other in these efforts. And we have a very strong connection with the State Auditor's Office as well. We have a very unique candidate assessment tool, and I'll get into a little more detail about that when we get to the assessing candidates phase of the process. But it's a process, it's a tool that we just acquired. It was designed by OSBA with a professional firm who assesses the quality of candidates in large corporations. It's a psychologically based assessment tool that guides you not only in your final selection of candidate, but also guides you in developing good interview questions that are behaviorally based on the results of the assessment that each candidate has gone through. We have a personal contact with all of our candidates. We talk by phone or in person before recommending them to you. And probably one of the biggest things that sets us apart from other search firms that should be very important to you is that we never withhold information. We give you the good, bad, and the ugly, and you will see every single one of your candidates who've applied for this position. We have a very strong and varied approach to recruitment. We do recruit aggressively those individuals that we feel meet your profile, but we also open the door for applicants who feel they might fit your profile and who would like to work in this district. We invite them and encourage them to apply as well. So our approach to recruiting is varied, and we kind of cast a wide net and then narrow the wide net results into a smaller group of recommended candidates through a very professional screening process at OSBA. And I'll talk a little bit more of that in detail as well. We never limit who you see or what you see. You know who's applied, you know who's been narrowed into our recommended list, and then it's always your choice, your decision as to who you would like to interview. We never substitute our judgment for yours. It is your search from the get-go to the very end. And that's very important for us. So you have all of this in your packets in front of you, but instead of focusing on the papers, you might, get more out of the presentation by listening, and then you can refer to the papers or ask questions about what I'm about to explain to you. But we do have a search process that, again, is very consistent by and large with every search firm that conducts a search for an executive position. And it starts with phase one, where we work very closely with the Board of Education, the consultant, the lead consultant for this project, works very closely with you to understand your needs specific to this district, your challenges, your opportunities, the profile characteristics of the perfect candidate. We work hard up front to understand that so that we can move into the second phase and recruit appropriately in that vein. During that leadership development phase, we also develop your marketing materials. We have a brochure that goes online to every state in the union. It goes by U.S. mail and online to every school district in the state of Ohio, superintendent, treasurer, business manager, and other administrators. We also bring that brochure to the attention of those individuals, approximately 3,000, last count, between 2,900, 3,000 individuals who have requested our information for openings for our treasurer searches as well. They go to higher ed, those who train treasurers for this important business. So we have a vast mailing online and U.S. mail where your vacancy is posted and announced. It is also posted on our website, and that immediately links that to every state association in the country. So not that boards of education in Ohio typically hire treasurers from outside of the state. That is more uncommon, but we want to be able to give you the best available no matter where they're from. Sometimes good candidates want to come back to Ohio, born and raised, trained here, and left for some reason and want to come back. So we don't want to eliminate any possibility for you. During that first phase as well, we also help you, support you with all communications to your community, to your media, whatever you might need in terms of getting the word out that you are looking, where you are in the process, and a little bit about that process, so people know that it's a transparent and very open and honest process. We move into phase two with candidate recruitment, and I already gave you a little bit of that information. Again, we cast a wide net. We narrow it for you with our recommendations based on your profile, based on our knowledge of the candidates in our research, in our vetting of those candidates, in our calling references, calling contacts for you. And we bring that whole list and then the recommended list to you for your deliberation as to who you will choose for the interview process. During the next phase, the candidate screening phase, OSBA assembles a team of professional screeners to the table at OSBA, and we review all materials on paper for each applicant. We have a numbering system and a ranking system, and we rank order the candidates individually, and then we come together and build consensus as a team about who are the emerging best of the best in the candidate pool. And sometimes that's a long and arduous process because each of us know a little more different information about each candidate, and we come to agreement after a long conversation on those because we want to make sure that when we recommend a candidate, it's going to protect you, it's going to protect the credibility of our process. And we want to make sure that when we bring you a candidate, we know who they are and what they say they are is true. We bring that screening report to you with our recommended list of candidates in the next phase called the board evaluation phase. And it's at that meeting where you see everything there is to know about all candidates and you make a decision about who you'd like to interview. We recommend, we guide, that it's your decision as to who you'd like to interview. And from that phase, we move into the interview phase where we take a back seat and become your coach, your support, your guide, but you do the heavy lifting. You interview the candidates, we provide the structure, we get the candidates to the room, we coach about legal and ethical issues in an interview process, do everything we need to do to make sure that you're prepared when you enter the room to provide a good quality interview with the candidates, and that they're prepared for time, location, format, and a little bit about who's going to be in the room and the way the evaluations go. When you move to we can't determine how many interviews you will hold with your candidates because we don't know how you'll react to them. So typically, there's a first round interview. You narrow to a second round, and sometimes that second round is a finalist round. It is with those final candidates that we apply the assessment tool. We ask each of those final candidates to go online, take about a 1 hour candidate assessment test, I call it. I'm old school. I know it's an assessment. I call it a test. It is psychologically based. They are timed. We get the results from the professional analyst who provides us the tool. And from those results, we at OSBA have developed a rubric for the best qualities of the best treasurers in today's environment for school districts. And we assess the candidates against those standards. They are standards. We can see from the results whether the candidates fall within the standards or whether they fall outside of the standards in a negative way or a positive way. We can cross-check the different characteristics, personality style, leadership style, weaknesses, strengths, with several different parameters in those standards. And what the report gives you in that final analysis is a detailed analysis of that individual's strengths, weaknesses, leadership style, and basic innate qualities as a professional. And from that also generates interview questions that get at their weaknesses and strengths and are all behaviorally based. We supplement those interview questions with a large number of questions that we've developed over the years that are examples of best practice and the best interview questions that boards have used throughout the country. And so you can pick and choose the interview questions that you like. We'll help you and guide you through that process as well. Provide you with the instruments to have at the table, help you through any communications that you need to make throughout the interview process, any community involvement, staff involvement that you need. We will facilitate that for you as well. And in the final phase, basically it's the appointment phase. And you decide who you'd like to appoint, you approve that appointment at your board meeting, and it becomes official. During that very final phase, we would support you and help with contract negotiations if needed. Typically, a district of your size would use an attorney, your board attorney, and your HR department, but we're there to help you as well. When you contract with OSBA, you contract with not only your lead consultant, but 43 individuals who are employed by OSBA to support that effort in communications, in legal, in policy, in management services, and all of our divisions. We do have a guarantee, and I'll close with that and a final statement. Our guarantee is that we stay with you until you appoint a treasurer. Whether that takes 2 rounds of recruiting or 5, whether that takes 6 months or 3, whatever it takes, we stay with you at no additional consultant fee cost, other than mileage perhaps for an extra ride up the pike. But we stay with you to the end until you appoint a treasurer. And that's our OSBA guarantee. And the final thought that I'd like to leave you with before you ask questions that you might have is that, again, we are vested in you getting the best treasurer you could possibly get. That's just a given. But we don't stop there. Our association with you, our relationship with you is more about your district thriving long-term into the future. And we want to be the association that stays with you in that relationship, no matter what your challenges are. And so the search process is one that we want to provide in a cost-effective and efficient and effective manner to get you the best results. But we don't go away after that. Our investment is in your district long-term. And that's genuine and that's honest. That's our mission at OSBA. So I'll open it up for questions.
You said there's a tool you use to compare how a candidate does on a profile. How did you come up with standards for school boards of today? I mean, is it geared towards generally, typical school boards of Ohio? I mean, there's certainly different size school boards. I'm wondering what the standards are you're applying to these candidates.
That's a really good question. Are you familiar with the Ohio Treasurer Evaluation System that was actually developed mainly by OASBO in cooperation with other associations? Ohio has recently developed, with OASBO in the lead, standards for treasurers' performance. And it's within the new Ohio Treasurer's Evaluation System that those standards are evaluated through school boards evaluating your treasurer every year. And so we use that as the basic foundation for our standards in the Achiever. That's what the assessment is called. And then we supplemented that with conversations with treasurers throughout the country, with our partners and associations throughout the country, and with OASBO and other experienced veteran treasurers that we have worked with throughout the years to say, is there anything else we should look for? Is there anything else important? And then through research and best practice in the industry, we've gathered that and combined it all, gave it to the developer of this tool, and this is actually the first assessment tool that he has used in the educational setting ever. I don't believe the company that owns the tool has ever done this in education. They've always done it for private industry. Some of the largest corporations in the country use the tool. It's called the Achiever in Ohio. I'm not sure what it's called in other states, but he was actually excited about working with us to develop this tool specifically for educators to use for both their superintendent and treasurer candidates. So this is the first year we're using it. We've used it with 4 other school districts for whom we facilitated both treasurer and superintendent searches. And the feedback that we've gotten has been, it has tipped the board to a final candidate in the end. Whenever candidates were neck and neck and they couldn't seem to decide who rose above, the assessment results tipped them to the best candidate. And they have, the districts that have used it so far, even though it is early in our usage of that tool, have given us very positive feedback and have recommended that we continue to refine it and grow it. So we are working with a consultant next week actually to look at it, how we've used it, and see if there's any refinements we can make to that tool. Long answer, I apologize for that.
Reverend Walker, did you have a question?
Your fee again is?
$6,400 for the base fee plus expenses. Your biggest expense will be the development, printing, and mailing of your brochure. If you want a U.S. mailing, because it's actual cost, the printing and mailing. And that is a flat rate of $1,400. That includes the paper, the printing, and the mailing, the actual postage to all of those people that I mentioned earlier. So that's the biggest expense. So $6,400 plus the $1,400 for brochure, printing, and mailing. And then the other expenses are basically mileage. Typically, a consultant will come here 4 times during a search, and it's a trip from Columbus to here. And I can look up the mileage if you like, but it's the standard IRS rate.
And your time frame is how long? Because we're on maybe a short track, fast track.
Yeah.
So would you be flexible enough to work with us on?
Yeah. The whole search process that we use is customizable. We do that for every district. That's our benchmark. Our typical search process is 3.5 months. That's to do it in the typical way when you've got time, and that gives you about a 6-week recruiting period. We can customize that, we can expedite it. The results are not always as good as they would be if you took your time, but if you really want to have a treasurer in your seat by August 1st, I believe that's your date.
Yeah.
We could expedite that. We could do some aggressive targeted recruitment. It wouldn't be the blanket process. And what we've done recently for districts who want that expedited search process is we've tried it in an expedited manner. We've recruited in short term. We've targeted our recruiting. We've gathered candidates that we can, and we've brought those to the board and said, are they good enough? Do we need to now consider an interim and do a full-blown, longer, extended recruitment period? And that works very well.
I'll ask the same question I asked the other gentleman, was how soon could we have someone to start if we wanted to start quickly? How?
Immediately. I mean, if you made the decision tonight, I'd wait out in the hall and come back in and start planning with you. But it would be immediate. We would check calendars, and I'm being facetious, but I would be willing to do that. It would be immediately, and it would, depending on your date that you would like to have that first planning session, which is what would be the next step. You would probably determine your lead consultant. It would either be myself or Dr. Richard Castor as the lead consultant in this project. And if calendars didn't work out, then either of the other 2 consultants would take the lead, and we're all well equipped for that.
Any other questions?
Just out of curiosity, the school districts that you did do a fast track, how many of the boards actually picked the fast track and how many went on to an elongated process?
It's a good question. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would say that it's probably half and half. It's probably half and half.
Do you guys screen the personal finances of a treasurer?
We do not, but in the application process, they give authority to us to do that on behalf of the board. Typically, a board will use whatever policy they have in the district for those kinds of checks, and they'll put that through their HR department. But we could do that for you if you request it. And that's no additional charge. Other questions you might have?
Good question.
Okay. We would love to work for you, and if not, we still wish you the best of luck. We're there for you no matter what. My card is inside the folder, so if you would like to contact me with whatever you decided, I would really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank
It's been a
you.
pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Alrighty, so, next order of business is I need a motion pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to go into executive session for the purpose of considering, is it this one? Dismissal of an employee or official of the school district.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second, roll call, Mr. Davis.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Faro.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardi.
Yes.
Mr. Mansfield.
Yes.
Mr. Norris.
Yes.
Mr. Sims. Yes. Alderman Walker.
Yes.